Lawful confinement in relation to an incident that happened 30 years ago. CBC's Caroline Bargut has the details.
Winnipeg police began investigating Peter Nygard in 2020 for allegations he sexually assaulted 8 women in Winnipeg decades ago. Their case files went to Manitoba prosecutions to review. In the end, the Crown said there was no reasonable likelihood of conviction and that Nygard would not be charged in Winnipeg.
We've all seen the allegations.
Last December, Manitoba's Justice Minister referred the case to Saskatchewan prosecutors for review, saying he lost sleep over it. Today, Winnipeg police charged Nygard with 1 count of sexual assault and 1 count of unlawful confinement in relation to 1 victim. That victim is Vancouver actress April Telek. In 1993, she was flown to Winnipeg to model Nygard's signature line. She was 20 years old at the time. She alleges she was drugged and held captive at Nygard's headquarters on Notre Dame Avenue for days, where she was sexually assaulted. We spoke with her from her home in Vancouver. She says she's relieved to hear charges were laid. A trial is still a long way off and a conviction is not a certainty. Telek is hopeful justice will be served.
This feels like such a huge victory for me after such a long battle trying to get my truth told and heard and believed. It's not a full victory because I still have sisters out there who he is not being held accountable for the damage that he has done to them. But for me today, I want to really, truly embrace this as a win.
Casey Allen is one of the 8 women who brought their allegations to Winnipeg police. While she's disappointed her case won't go to court, this is what she said about the charges. It's about time. It's a devastating commentary on Manitoba's so-called justice that we had to look afield to get answers. I'm assuming it's the Saskatchewan DAs that have come in. That's tremendously good news. Nygard is also facing sex assault charges in 2 other Canadian cities. He goes to trial in Toronto in September. It's expected to last 10 weeks. His Montreal trial is scheduled for June 2024. Nygard is to be extradited to the U.S. once his Canadian trials are complete, but has appealed that order. No decision has been made on that yet. Through his lawyers, Nygard has consistently maintained his innocence and has denied all the allegations against him. We contacted his lawyer today to see if he had any comment on these new charges, but have not heard back. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The City of Winnipeg has filed an application with the court to remove protesters who've blockaded the main entrance to the Brady Road landfill. The blockade, now in its 5th day, was set up in response to the Premier's decision not to fund a search for human remains at another landfill outside the city. The protesters have remained at the site despite a city order to leave. Now, to tell us more about what happens next, CBC's Cameron McLean joins us live in the newsroom. And Cam, what do we know about this court injunction the city's seeking?
The application names several people, including Cambria Harris, the daughter of one of the victims. The city says it needs access to the landfill. Trucks have been using a temporary back entrance, but the city says that is not a long-term solution. Earlier today, Mayor Scott Gillingham wouldn't say what would happen if the judge grants the injunction and protesters refuse to leave.
Tensions are high kind of on both sides. We've got people of the community that have, that I'm hearing from that want the road open and they're frustrated, and no doubt, family members are grieving the loss of loved ones and they want action from senior levels of government. So
the city says their application for an injunction will be on the judge's uncontested list. A hearing is set for tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Now, Cam, you were at the blockade today. What did you see?
We saw about 10 people stationed at the blockade with supporters delivering food and water, and occasionally they would redirect people who wanted to dump garbage at the landfill to the back entrance. I asked some of the protesters what might happen if the court grants the injunction.
I'm a peaceful person, so I will sit on the ground and they'll have to probably physically remove me, and we'll go from there.
And you know what? It's like I said, we're here to be peaceful, and we're not here to provoke the government. We're not here to provoke the police force or the army. We're here to just maintain our peaceful positions, and our orders come directly from the women and the women of the family.
As you heard, whatever happens, the protesters say they intend to remain peaceful.
Now, Cam, can you remind us what's led us to this point?
The protesters want the province to support a search of the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 women. Police believe the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron were dumped there. There are 2 of 4 women believed to have been killed by the same man. Protesters set up the blockade at Brady Road after Premier Heather Stephenson said the province wouldn't fund a search, citing safety concerns.
All right, thank you so much, Cameron. That's CBC's Cameron McLean reporting live. Now, premiers addressed 2 of the biggest concerns of Canadians today, the rising cost of living and health care. They're meeting in Winnipeg for 3 days of talks and to put pressure on the federal government for more help. Ashley Burke is there with the latest.
Good morning, Premier Ford.
Premiers are meeting with a new healthcare deal from Ottawa in hand. Now the question is, how will they coordinate spending billions in federal funding to address a system in crisis?
Alberta has one of the biggest problems when I look across the country at failing to create an environment in the workforce that nurses want to be in.
Alberta's premier says healthcare costs are increasing faster than the federal government's contributions, and provinces and territories need help bringing more healthcare workers into the country.
Part of it is having the federal government work with us on the things that we need, which is a streamlined process for recruiting people from abroad, having them come into our system, into the professions that we need.
Don't sell off our health care.
Nearby, a rally to draw the premier's attention to the problems. The National Association of Nurses also met directly with premiers.
There has to be a health human resource plan. They have to work with their employers and their unions to see how are we going to make sure we have enough nurses, doctors, healthcare workers in the next year, 5 years, 20 years.
Affordability, another top issue during premiers' talks today.
I'm really concerned about that. 8 out of 10 Canadians are concerned about the cost of living. Our government is, I'll give you an example. I'm out here, I always look at the gas prices. They're about $1.60, $1.57, same in Ontario. Just imagine if Ontario, for Ontarians, we never reduced it by 10 cents. I would love to see the federal government reduce their share, give people a break.
BC's premier said skyrocketing housing prices can't be ignored.
Like other premiers around the table, I have a real sense of dread about the next Bank of Canada rate hike. I think that the impact on British Columbians is pretty profound. Our housing is already very significantly more expensive than other parts of the country.
In Canada's north, food prices are hitting new extremes.
The prices in our stores are incredible. Some communities are paying over $30 for a gallon of milk. So that is my biggest fear, is that our people are hungry.
These issues all feed into tomorrow's conversation about economic trade and growth. Some premiers are calling on Ottawa to help speed up infrastructure projects. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 42-year-old man has been arrested for the murder of another man over the weekend. On Saturday, police found the body of 64-year-old Marcel Alphonse Payne-Shaw in a suite in the 300 block of Langside Street. Police say the 2 men lived in the same building. They got into a fight and Payne-Shaw was stabbed. Yesterday, police arrested Abdiazia Ahmad Saeed and charged him with second-degree murder. It's been 5 days since the City of Winnipeg wound up on the losing end of a $5 million judgment. A judge ruled city planners deliberately stymied a development in Fort Garry at the behest of City Councillor John Orlico. As CBC's Bartley Kivez reports, the councillor has yet to address the rare judicial comments about an elected official.
Nothing but weeds on the site of Fulton Grove. Developer Andrew Marquis has been trying to build homes, townhouses, and apartments here since 2013. A judge ruled last week the City of Winnipeg's holding up the development. The judge said a pair of city planners got in the way on the direction of John Orlico, City Councillor for River Heights, Fort Garry. In the decision, Justice Shauna McCarthy said the impetus and motivation for this deliberate interference with the plaintiff's applications were primarily the wishes and demands of the area councillor and the desire of some public servants to accommodate those wishes. John Orlico hasn't addressed the judge's comments. He says he's still reviewing the decision. We did hear from Winnipeg's mayor.
Well, I did read the entire judgment, all 92 pages of it. what I read was concerning.
Scott Gillingham didn't, however, fault Orlico, who sits alongside the mayor as a member of council's executive policy committee.
Councillor Orlico was not a defendant in the case, and so he didn't have his opportunity. He was not called to witness, so he didn't have an opportunity to speak through the case either.
Andrew Marquis says he never had any idea Orlico was out to stop his residential area from taking shape.
I never knew till all the productions came out that Councillor Orlico wanted to slow down as much as he wanted to. I was always told there was a justifiable reason why that we were continually asked to jump through hoops.
Political scientist Paul Thomas says it does appear Orlico crossed the line. In a statement, Thomas said deciding whether a particular development is in the public interest should not come down to the opinions and political calculations of a single councillor. The City of Winnipeg is still deciding whether to appeal the decision. The deadline for doing so is in early August. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba's PC government is standing by its decision not to call a public inquiry into Winnipeg's real estate and construction scandals. City Council asked for an inquiry in 2017. Former Premier Brian Pallister and his successor Heather Stephenson declined. They said it can't be done while the city's police headquarters remained the subject of legal proceedings. The city settled with most of its police HQ defendants in March, while Manitoba's Court of Appeal ruled against a former CAO last week. Still, Stephenson claims the settlement with most of the defendants isn't complete.
There was an appeal that was denied in one component of it, but it still remains before the courts today, and so our decision on that remains the same.
A spokesperson for Manitoba Justice clarified more paperwork has to be filed on the settlement. And we bring in CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, it was definitely a less windy day out there today, but some unfortunate news that we've possibly have some rain in the forecast?
Yeah, some rain in the forecast for parts of the province. Kind of the trade-off, I guess. We give up one system in favor of another. We got to 22 degrees in Winnipeg today, and that is where we're sitting right now. Winds, heck of a lot calmer than they were at this time yesterday. Just out of the west at 11 at the moment. The pressure is falling, and I thought I'd bring back the current wind speed map again just to show you what a difference a day makes, because look at this. We're seeing winds out of the northwest still, but a lot lighter. We're still contending with some very strong winds along the Hudson Bay coast. Expect those to die down in the coming hours or so into the evening tonight. And you can see this area of low pressure really still spinning through the Hudson Bay coast there, still bringing some occasional showers to extreme northeastern Manitoba. This here is our next weather maker here. This is a upper trough line that is making its way along the international border, bringing rain to North Dakota. I did drop the chance of showers for the Red River Valley overnight tonight into tomorrow. I think that the system's mainly going to stay south of the border. However, we will see some shower activity in extreme southern Manitoba here through the evening. You can see as we get into early Wednesday morning, areas like Melita over toward Boissevain, Morden Winkler could see some showers as we get into the day on Wednesday into the afternoon. Still some occasional showers in northern Manitoba as well. Could see a rumble of thunder in parts of the north as we head into early Thursday morning. Central Manitoba seeing some rain early Thursday. I paused here at noon because we do see some heavier pockets of rain beginning to drop into southern Manitoba. So we could see some showers on and off through the late morning into the early afternoon on Wednesday here. You can see some of that spotty shower activity still persisting as we get into early Friday morning. Friday at this point looking like we're going to see some nicer conditions, but still a little off normal for this time of the year. So current conditions, 19 in Brandon right now, up to 22 still in Winnipeg, 17 this hour in Thompson. Tonight in Winnipeg down to 10 degrees. Light winds tonight under a mainly cloudy sky. We'll see some clearing in the morning, 16 first thing, and in the afternoon a sun cloud mix and 23 degrees in the afternoon. Occasional showers through a good chunk of northern Manitoba, up to 26 in Flin Flon and the Pas tomorrow. In southwestern Manitoba, there's that chance of showers from Morden at 21 degrees. Otherwise, a mix of sun and cloud through most of the rest of the region into tomorrow. Southeastern Manitoba, much the same as well. Chance of showers in Emerson, 21 degrees. Very slim chance of a shower through Sprague and the Piney region at 22. The Interlake at 23 tomorrow, and Gimli under a mix of sun and cloud. And into northwestern Ontario, very slim chance of a shower in Fort Frances. Otherwise, cloudy skies tomorrow, 22 degrees, 22s and 23s, Brittany, around the rest of the region. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up at the end of the show.
All right. Thanks so much, Riley. We'll
Welcome.
check in with you later. Well, coming up, NATO members agree to let Ukraine join the alliance and fast-track the process. More on that after the break. Stay with us. At the NATO summit in Lithuania, the member nations have agreed to let Ukraine apply to join the alliance and to fast-track the process. However, it falls short of an official invitation, and it's less than Ukraine has been hoping for. CBC's Evan Dyer has the latest.
Slava Ukraini! Героям слава!
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's rally in Vilnius showcased his support from the crowds outside the NATO summit. But inside, Ukraine's effort to join NATO got a cooler reception.
We also made clear that we will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when allies agree and conditions are met.
The Ukrainian leader responded with an angry tweet. For Russia, this means motivation to continue its terror. Uncertainty is weakness. NATO members have made it clear that Ukraine can't join while it's involved in an active war, because that would immediately bring all NATO members into direct conflict with Russia. But Ukraine was still hoping for more. Sweden, however, got a pleasant surprise from Turkey, the country that had been standing in the way of its ambition to become member number 32. Turkey's Recep Erdogan agreed to drop his veto in return for concessions from Sweden that include the lifting of a ban on arms sales. Sweden and Finland's accession to the alliance turned the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake, a major blow to Russia's Baltic fleet. But controversy continued on another front, Washington's decision to give Ukraine cluster munitions, some of which failed to explode. Canada is against it.
Of course, we do not agree with the American position. We believe in our international obligations when it comes to cluster ammunition.
Canada supported the effort behind a treaty banning cluster munitions that includes penalties against countries that use them. Ukraine's defense minister pointed out that Russia has been using them since the start of the war and promised they'd only be used on Ukraine's own territory, away from built-up areas. And there was no talk from allies of penalties.
We'll continue to provide strong military assistance.
And so the objections to the transfer of cluster munitions will likely be formalities. The priority for the nations gathered at this summit is that Ukraine win the war against Russia, whatever it takes. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Vilnius.
The Assembly of First Nations rejected an attempt today to reinstate Roseanne Archibald as national chief. It was the first time First Nations leaders met in person since a vote to oust her. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the AFN is now trying to move ahead after the infighting.
Chiefs, it is your decision. You have spoken.
A last-ditch attempt to reinstate Roseanne Archibald, the first national chief ever ousted from the Assembly of First Nations, defeated.
Raise your hand, please.
An overwhelming majority of First Nations leaders voted to move on during the first day of their annual summer gathering.
We have to work together to build up that confidence back.
Exhausted from the leadership turmoil, overshadowing the Assembly's agenda for more than a year.
We have to get to the business of homelessness, of safe drinking water, of the opioid crisis.
What has happened to me has come from hatred.
But the former national chief isn't going away quietly.
What is happening in this moment is absolutely wrong. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it except for you. Wake up, stand up, and vote against the garbage that's happening at AFN.
Thank you very much.
Archibald was removed from the top job only 2 weeks ago in a private virtual meeting after a workplace investigation concluded she harassed and retaliated against staff. But Archibald says she's facing retaliation for raising concerns about alleged corruption within the AFN.
I solemnly promise.
New Brunswick Regional Chief Joanna Bernard is now interim leader, promising to create a safe work environment and even support Archibald's request for greater financial transparency.
To maintain legitimacy of this.
Some chiefs still want to complete the work Archibald started, restructuring the AFN and launching a forensic audit.
There is a period of healing and of collaboration that is needed by leadership within the Assembly of First Nations. I think one of the ways that we can accomplish that is through actually just working together, listening to each other.
That's the challenge facing the organization as it gathers here over the next few days and tries to refocus and catch up on issues sidelined by internal conflict. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Halifax.
Demonstrators staged what they call a day of disruption in Israel to protest new laws that will limit the power of the country's Supreme Court. Protesters blocked roads and highways around Tel Aviv during the morning rush hour. There were similar demonstrations around Jerusalem and in the occupied West Bank. Police used water cannon to try to break up the crowds, and there were several skirmishes between officers and protesters. The legislation limiting the court's powers received initial parliamentary approval yesterday. Opponents want it halted, saying the court helps prevent government corruption and abuse of power. Supporters of the new laws say they will make it easier to govern. Well, there's some renewed volcanic activity in Iceland. The eruption started yesterday in the southwestern part of the island, about 30 kilometers from the capital, Reykjavik. It appears to have been triggered by an increase in earthquake activity in the area. Scientists think it may signal the start of a new eruption cycle. The last cycle ended about 11 months ago. There are no reports of damage, and the eruption has not disrupted operations at Iceland's main international airport. Well, coming up, Riley Lachak will have your 7-day forecast, and we'll have your daily lift. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
All right, your 7-day forecast looks like this. We're expecting a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers over extreme southern Manitoba through the early part of tomorrow. Chance of showers on Thursday, risk of thunderstorms late in the afternoon. Then we start to see a bit of a windier weekend on tap. Breezy conditions for Friday, Saturday, a chance of showers, a better chance of showers on Sunday. And Monday, clearing towards a sunnier 26 degrees on the way for next Tuesday. Well, it is not exactly Jurassic Park, but a new attraction in Brazil lets you walk among dinosaurs and learn more about Earth's past.
It sounds a lot safer, actually. Here's your daily lift. A 2-hour trip from Rio de Janeiro takes you more than 200 million years back in time. The land of the dinos features 40 life-sized animatronic dinosaurs tucked into the Brazilian rainforest. 30 of the creatures were brought in China and shipped to Brazil. The others were created locally. The park covers about 1.5 square kilometers and bills itself as the world's largest dinosaur park. I like the looks of that zip line.
I wonder if they bite.
Hopefully not. Maybe we'll find out one day. Have a wonderful evening.